Hey guys, welcome to Creating Hanley. I'm the Hanley at Creating Hanley, and we are going to put this together today. Well, at least we're going to cut it. We're going to get the parts ready, and then perhaps sew something today. So we'll get that started. This is the March 2023 block of the month. So we're doing Sew a Year Full of Stars, and this is the 8-point block of the month for March 2023. Now I added these cornerstones, and if you make a full quilt just from this block, it's called Crossroads, Arkansas Cross, or I don't know, some kind of state crossroads. But this block can go in any way. I made it super scrappy from Irish themed fabric, as you can see, and you can put it in any direction and it works. So this is what we're going to do. So as you can see, I did all of the blocks from 2.5-inch blocks. So every square here is a 2.5-inch block. So I did some half square triangles up here, and these are all 2.5-inch blocks, and even the gingham is a 2.5-inch block. Now I just pinned the backing together because I want to hold that in place. But this is just 100% natural, or I should not speak Pittsburghese. It's 100% natural cotton batting. 100% natural cotton batting. Not easy for me to say apparently today. But anyway, so if you do and I'll show you the prototype here. The prototype is this block. So what I did for this one, this is an 8.5-inch square. So this is just one piece, 8.5-inch square, and then I made 4 flying geese on either side. And I can give you the measurements for this. I actually wasn't prepared to do that, but I can show it to you real quick. So let me move the camera back and put you down here. Whoops. So what we have here, I don't know, can you guys see that? So this square piece right here, this middle piece, is one block of 8.5-inch. The flying geese portions, so this flying geese portion is 4.5 by 2.5. So 2.5 this way, 4.5 inches long. For that whole square. Now this, let me take that back. This is 6.5 inches by 2.5. 6.5 inches by 2.5. 4.5 by 2.5. 6.5 by 2.5. 6.5 inches by 2.5 inches. 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. 6.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Okay? 8.5 inches. 6.5 inches by 2.5. 4.5 by 2.5. 6.5 by 2.5. These might be a little bit smaller because they are on the sides. So, as you can see, if you pay attention here, this side is a little bit shorter. This side is a little bit shorter than this side. So, however you want to do it, like sides or top and bottom, you pick. So, I'm going to say this is the top and this is the bottom. So, the top and bottom have 6.5 inches by 2.5. Now if you do the same on this side, all you would do is just trim it on the back. So the back looks like this. Pretty simple, okay? So you just make 4 flying geese, an 8.5-inch block. Sew it all together, and there's your block. Super easy, guys, right there. All right, now we're going to make it a little bit more difficult by showing you this block. bring this up a little closer. Okay. So what I did with this is I just made this super scrappy. So this obviously you can see is Irish themed or St. Patrick's Day themed fabric. Green and white and gold. Basically you can do green, white, and gold. Black, some black in there. But that's what I did for this particular block, the 8-point block. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Okay. And now, this is what I did today. After the first video I did this morning, this is now the evening, I cut some squares out of just scraps. So you can see it's super scrappy, nothing very special, just kind of put everything together. Now, these are 2.5-inch blocks. I used this ruler, 2.5-inch square. So I just cut 2.5-inch blocks. And these are 4 rows and 4 columns of 2.5-inch blocks. So that makes 16 of these blocks. You can make it scrappy, you can make it coordinating, you can make it a theme, Christmassy, whatever you want, okay? 2.5-inch blocks, 16 of these on the inside. Now on the outside, I just cut white. Just white, 2.5-inch blocks, just white, or little squares, maybe not a block, but 2.5-inch squares, so you can see 2.5-inch squares. You need 12 of these, 12 2.5-inch squares, and they go on the outside. So you can see I put them around on the outside, like so. Now in the middle here, you need 4 extra points. So you're going to make half square triangles. And when you put 2 half square triangles together, you have a point at the top. And then when you sew these together and then put it in a column, you now have the extra point. So here's your point, point. You need a point up here, a point over here, the point at this corner, and then you need a point here. So I'm going to show you, I make 2 half square triangles from 1 square. So you put 2 pieces of fabric together, 2 2.5-inch blocks. So 2 2.5-inch blocks, right sides together, Draw a line down the middle. You can see I drew a line just with a pencil, just with a number 2 pencil. Nobody's going to see it, so you don't have to worry about it going away, being invisible. Just draw from corner, straight line from corner to corner, and then you sew a 1/4 inch on either side. So you can see this. Can you see that? I don't know where the camera is. So you just sew these lines straight down. Now, you probably want a 1/4 inch. I sewed a scant 1/4 inch. And also, here's another tip for you guys. These squares become smaller than these squares. So I will show you here. I sewed these 2 together, cut them apart, and then once you do that, you can see the brown on the outside of this. They become a little bit smaller. So you might want to make your half square triangles a little bit bigger. So instead of cutting 8 2.5-inch squares, maybe you cut 8 3-inch squares or 2 3/4-inch squares. So just a little bit bigger. And even if they become bigger than the square, you can always trim those down. There's less of these than there are of these. That makes sense, okay? So when you sew these and you put them together, it creates a point right here, and you want the white on the outside. So what I did was I just cut just regular white, and I made these solid and just on the outside, so that is completely different from the pattern or the coordinating colors on the inside. It's completely separate. so that when you put these together, this comes to the outside, just like that. So that creates another point, okay? Now I'm going to show you what you do here. For this one, you can rotary cut or get your scissors. So I'm going to show you real quick. Just get your scissors and cut straight on the line. Okay? So you just cut straight on the line, and then when you open that up, now you have your half square triangle. Iron it open or finger press, and then it becomes another point. Okay? So again, finger press, open that up, and it becomes a point at the top. Now you have to make sure they go in the correct direction. So here's the direction that they go. The point is at the top, and then they go right in these two spaces. So again, right here at the bottom, I need another point. You take your triangle, draw your line from one corner to the other. It doesn't matter unless you're using, if you are using directional fabric, then you want to be careful, because once you create a diagonal, the pattern changes. So for example, I have an example right here. So I have striped fabric here. When you you know what I'm saying? Like when you cut your squares, they go in opposite directions. So if you have directional fabric like these are, then you create a here we go, direction that is quite opposite. Actually, those these actually didn't work out all that bad, but it becomes a little bit different if you can see the directional difference there. Okay, so just know that that happens when you create your half square triangles from directional fabric. Okay, so but in this case, these are just seashells that go in any different direction, and these are just snowflakes that go in any different direction, so it doesn't really matter. You can finger press or iron these open, and then once you have them open, then you make sure that the point goes to the outside. Okay? Can you see that? So the flat part goes to the inside, and the point goes to the outside. Now again, these squares are smaller, which makes this little block right here, this little section, at a disadvantage. So you probably want to make your half square triangles a little bit bigger. So instead of drawing or cutting 2.5 inch squares, maybe cut 2 3/4 inch squares or 3 inch squares. And then when you cut, because you're actually cutting, you've been losing probably 1/2 inch, really, is what's going on there. So make them 3 inches and then trim them down so that they all match the 2.5 inch. And then you're going to sew these all together. And I don't think you need to see me sew these all together, but you just want to sew these all together. And then once you get those sewed together, you sew all these. And then, you know, just I would sew these units together. Sew your half square triangles together so you don't get confused. And then once those are together, then you can sew your rows together, right? Like that. Sew your rows together. And then you can sew your sides. So what would happen is these get sewed together, these get sewed, these get sewn together, sewn together, sewn together, sewn together, right? Sewn together. And then you sew each column together. So all of these columns together. And then this row is sewn together, and then you sew this onto there, and then this row is sewn together, and then you would sew this onto there. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. I don't know if you really need to see me sew all, 16 and 12 of these squares. 16 and 12, 20, 28 squares, 30 squares. Not sure if you need to see me just sew squares together. but you want to make sure that you have whatever your seam allowance is. If you use a 1/4 inch or even a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch is a lot. You're going to lose a lot of your square if you use a 1/2 inch. So a 1/4 inch, or maybe even an 1/8 of an inch, or maybe a scant 1/4 inch, so it's almost a 1/4 inch. But whatever you do, you want to make sure all of your seams are exactly the same. And then if you find that your blocks are getting wonky, then trim them up so that they are, so that all the seams meet. And so really pay attention to the corners that meet on here. You can trim these dog ears, but when you sew this together, so maybe I'll just do this demo real quick for you, okay? So this is the point right here. I want to sew these together. So I want to make sure that I match up this seam with this seam. Now if you have, like here, these are ironed in the opposite direction, these seams, so that when you meet this line in the center, they should nest. The blocks should nest. Now, mine seem to be a little bit wonky, but that's pretty common for me. Okay, and the other thing is I did not trim these little blocks, so I still have the dog ears on here and whatnot, so this block is probably going to be pretty wonky. Now you just want to sew down the line that these 2 points, oops, you can't even see that. Sew down this line. Now I have a leader in. Okay, cut my leader off, put that back in place, and then when you open this up, your tops should match, just like that. So the top up here matches. Oops. Right? Okay. And then you can trim it, and then this becomes a unit that you can put into right there, into your block. Okay? So I hope that helps you guys. So we're going to continue to do that, and so that we create this block. Okay? I will come back for more in a little bit. All right. See ya. Bye.